When you worked at the exchange at that time, did you believe it was a legitimate business?
Yes.
Now when you join the exchange, and again, I'm focusing on, let's say, the sort of back half of 2020 into maybe early 2021. Is it fair to say that your impression was that there was a lot of money being spent to stand up this project?
Yes.
And can you just give us some examples of that?
Well, we had a huge payroll. We had huge tech bills and huge cloud bills. And we were developing data centers.
Okay, and you had outside vendors for various things as well?
Yes, quite a few.
Okay, and I believe you told the government that you thought the IT spending was in the millions of dollars just to get things stood up, right?
It was.
Okay, and at this point you understood that the money for these startup costs was coming from Mr. J.E., right?
Yes.
In 2020 and early 2021, the exchange hadn't sold any tokens to anybody, right? Prior to April of 2021?
Correct.
The exchange hadn't raised any money as far as you knew, right?
As far as I knew.
Right, and they didn't sell any HCN during that period?
No.
They didn't sell any HDO during that period?
No.
Okay, so pretty clear to you that during this time the money that was spent to build the exchange was not money from investors.
Yes.
And not money from token purchasers.
Yes.
Or anyone else as far as you knew.
Yes.
And then at its peak, how many people did Hamilton have working on the exchange, approximately?
Well, there were 200 employees in London at one point.
Is it fair to say that the exchange employed multiple people in finance who were working on the exchange?
That is fair.
And multiple people in IT who were working on the exchange?
Multiple.
Yes, correct. And multiple developers, right?
Yes.
And now the exchange also had a 24/7 customer service line, right?
That is correct.
When you say there's no difference between G-Coin and H-Coin, do you mean that the G-Coin concept became the H-Coin later?
I'm not sure that's entirely true either.
So G-Coin was never created, right?
No, it was never created.
Right, and H-Coin was the thing you worked on, right?
Could you repeat that?
H-Coin was the thing that you worked on, right?
It was, yes.
Not G-Coin, just to draw a distinction between the two?
For the first month or so, we were calling H-Coin G-Coin.
So, it was renamed?
That's right.
Okay, did in fact Himalaya hire Surtech to audit the smart contracts for HCN and HDO?
They did.
In fact, Surtech made recommended changes to the smart contracts of HCN and HDO, right?
I believe so.
What does KYC stand for?
Know your customer.
And in your view, the onboarding of an exchange customer was a pretty time-intensive thing?
It's very arduous.
Very arduous. And I think there was something like 16 questions that customers had to go through in order to sign up?
That's correct.
Do you recall telling the government, in your view, most people had trouble filling out more than 4 fields of the 16?
Yeah, that's an industry understanding, that after 4 fields, you begin to get a drop-off in people signing up.
So the question is, even if someone did fill out all fields, all 16 fields, they still had to get through BitGo's onboard process, right?
I don't recall if BitGo was part of that 16 or not, but BitGo was involved in that, yes.
And do you recall that the BitGo onboarding process required customers to take a picture?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and it turned out that a lot of people had trouble taking pictures of their IDs when they were foreign IDs, right?
That's right.
By foreign, I mean non-US IDs, right?
That's accurate.
And that gave the technology fits, right?
It did.
Okay, and because the technology wasn't good at handling Mandarin characters in particular, right?
That's correct.
All right, and also because the software was designed for like a first name, last name, and in China, at least, that is typically switched.
Exactly.
And as a result of the arduous, to borrow your phrase, onboarding process, it took customers sometimes a month or more just to complete the paperwork, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and you thought it should have taken something more like 24 to 48 hours, right?
20 minutes.
Fair enough, even shorter. And you were concerned that people were getting frustrated with it, right?
It was obvious.
Okay, and there were calls to the 24/7 Mandarin English hotline about that, right?
Flooded the hotline.
One of the reasons that there was all of this process that we just talked about was because the exchange restricted onboarding users from certain geographies.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and the US was one of those geographies, right?
It was.
And Canada was too, right?
As well, yes.